Welcome to Talk Commerce, where we explore how merchants, agencies, and developers experience commerce and the communities they work and live in. Don't forget to collect your free joke at the end of this intro. This week we interview Sandra Gonzalez and Sergii Ivashchenko with Adobe. We discuss the new Magento Upgrade Compatibility Tool, or UCT, and why this tool is so important to merchants, developers, and agencies. We talk about some specific features and how this tool will reduce the cost of ownership for all merchants running Adobe Commerce. We also talk about how some other tools, like Magento Coding Standard Project and the Site-Wide Analysis Tool, or SWAT, will work together to make the development process for Adobe Commerce easier and more efficient. I was living on a houseboat and I fell in love with the girl next door. But sadly, we drifted apart. The Talk Commerce podcast is sponsored by SwiftOtter. E-commerce developers solve problems daily. In fact, some of those seem like mountainous hurdles that must be climbed in a matter of hours. Stress levels can go through the roof. No wonder the plague of burnout affects developers too. But there's a vaccine for that. Investing time in your career will take you farther than you ever imagined. Meet SwiftOtter. SwiftOtter exists to help you become the e-commerce hero that is indispensable and irreplaceable at your company. We do this through Magento certification study materials and Joseph Maxwell's most recent book, The Art of E-commerce Debugging. Go to swiftotter.com to learn more about how you can quickly climb the ranks in your quest to be a better developer. While you're there, use the coupon code TALKCommerce for 15% off any digital goods at swiftotter.com. Cloud is a new normal for companies of any size. Buying, maintaining, upgrading, and disposing of machines is expensive and complicated. Amazon Web Services, managed by eWay Corp, offers an easy-to-use, flexible, cost-effective solution to all your infrastructure needs. eWay Corp can provide a secure, reliable, scalable, high-performance network that will make your office hum. Not literally. eWay Corp has saved its customers an average of 31% on their IT costs while adding 62% to the bottom line efficiency. To top that, their customers have seen 43% fewer security incidents. Go to ewaycorp.com to learn how you can start saving money and headaches by moving to the cloud. That's ewaycorp.com. My name is Brent Peterson, and I'm your host. Please remember to subscribe wherever you download your podcasts. And now, Talk Commerce. All right, welcome to this special episode of Talk Commerce. Today I have Sergii and Sandra, both from Adobe, and we are going to talk about the Magento Upgrade Tool, or Compatibility Tool. Anyways, I'll let Sergii and Sandra introduce themselves, tell us what your roles are, and maybe one of your passions in life. And Sergii, if you want to start.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a software engineer in Adobe, and you have been, you might have been interacting with me if you participated some contribution days or just contribution to Magento projects, as I have worked a lot in the community engineering team in Magento, and currently I'm also involved in several internal projects. One of these is Upgrade Compatibility Tool for Adobe Commerce. So basically, I'm leading this project and working together with Sandra to identify any future improvements to the Upgrade Compatibility Tool and current backlog. Sandra.
Great, thank you. So I'm Sandra Gonzalez. I'm product manager at Adobe Commerce. I've been with the company for a long time, but I've gone through a lot of acquisitions. So I started when it was GSI Commerce, and then it has changed. We have changed our name plenty of times, and now finally Adobe Commerce, at least for now. So I'm very happy to work at this company. I think it's a great place to work, and it allows us to do a lot of things. And the main thing that I'm focused at the moment is trying to help our customers to reduce Adobe Commerce total cost of ownership. And the main area that we're focusing on is our upgrades. We know that upgrades are very difficult to manage and they can get very expensive. So what we're trying to do is to reduce the cost of an upgrade, which will have a significant and direct impact to the project's total cost of ownership. And that's what I've been doing in the last 1.5 years or 1 year. And one of the main projects I'm working on is the Upgrade Compatibility Tool, which we're going to talk today.
Great, thank you. And I have been to the offices in Barcelona a couple times, and I very much enjoy it. It was order management was the main focus, I think, after it was GSI, and then order management, and now I think you have a blend of things. But I think the work culture in Barcelona is fantastic, and I've always enjoyed visiting the office, and I took training there. And anyways, so I haven't been to the office in Dublin yet. I'm looking forward to running with Sergei in the Dublin Marathon in 2022. So lots of excitement in Europe for me, hopefully next year.
Yeah, hopefully we can do something together, not so far away.
Exactly. So I know that this is, for merchants, this is a very big sticking point, not a sticking point, but it's always been something that they've looked at for Adobe Commerce and Magento, is just the cost of ownership. And a lot of that cost is driven from the need for applying patches and, more importantly, upgrading to the newest versions. So I know that this tool has been around in a beta format or even an alpha format for at least a year now. And can you tell us, Sandra, maybe tell us a little bit about how the tool is going to help merchants and where the state of the tool is, and maybe how we could start using it?
Yeah, for sure. So we released the first version of the tool, the alpha version, earlier this year in January 2021. And the goal of the tool from the beginning is to help with the upgrade process. And the step where we believe we can make an impact is on this investigation and analysis before upgrading. So where we know engineers have to look through the code and release notes manually to identify what changes they will have to apply to being able to upgrade to the newer version of Adobe Commerce. Hopefully, our target is for all our customers to be up to date using the latest version that we have released. But we know this is difficult. As of today, this year, we've been releasing 4 new versions, of at least batch versions, a quarter, which it makes even more difficult to keep up to date. So the goal of the tool is to being able to identify very easily. So hopefully with just one command and few minutes, engineers will be able to get a report of all the issues that they will have to fix to complete an upgrade to a specific version. And so it basically compares 2 different versions, the one that you're using in your instance, in your project, with the one that you want to upgrade to. So this should, I know what I've heard is that it can take even more than 2 weeks to understand the scope of an upgrade. So the idea is that with this tool, this time will be significantly reduced. Of course, the tool is quite new. As I mentioned before, we released it earlier this year in January. So what we're doing is, what we did at the beginning is that we released those features at first were gonna help us to get the tool sooner to our customers. And then that will allow us to continuously increase the scope of the tool and granularly provide more value for our users. So the first launch, the alpha version, we released it with PHP API validations and also GraphQL schema validations. which we know it's probably not the issues that impact the most when upgraded, but it was what we could deliver sooner to our customers, which we believe the sooner we can deliver something, the better it will be. And we've been working during this year on increasing the scope. And we've been implementing also the validation for the core code. So the idea with this is that engineers will be able to identify very quickly if someone have done a customization, modifying the core code, which we know it's not a best practice, but we also know that it happens quite often. We've done a bunch of other improvements through the year now, thanks to the feedback of our users on the community Slack channel, which thanks to everybody. We have also the possibility to filter the issues. So originally we were showing a full list of issues from different levels. We have 3 levels: critical, errors, and warnings. And warnings are the ones that are considered issues, but we believe they might not have an impact on an upgrade because it might be issues that you're already having on your project because they might not follow our best practices, but it's not breaking your features. Then we have errors, which are issues that you should be fixing because it might generate a problem within the when you upgrade to the next version, or critical, which we know, hey, you're going to have problems if you don't fix this. So with one of the features that I think are very helpful now is first that you can filter the level of issues that you want to see. So with this, the idea is that if you want to reduce the investment, that the time that you're investing on upgrading, you can just filter and look at the errors and critical issues. This is just like an optional step. Our recommendation is to fix everything, of course. But we know that sometimes the number of issues can be huge. So I think you have a lot of experience on this, probably even much more than both of us together. And it might be very difficult and complex to fix everything, but that's something that can be done to minimize the number of changes that you should definitely apply. Something also great that we haven't communicated this yet, but we're planning to do it hopefully within the next month, is that we have introduced the Upgrade Compatibility Tool within our Magento Adobe Commerce PHP Storm plugin. What we want to achieve with this is to allow engineers to validate their code while they are developing a new feature or a fix or a customization. So the idea is that this, instead of waiting to the moment you want to upgrade, with adding UCT within your development process, will make sure that you do not generate future issues when upgrading. So it will validate like any other validation that you might have in your processes, but it will make sure that for future upgrades, you're following all those best practices that you have to comply with if you don't want to have a more difficult upgrade in the future. So that's something new that, as I said before, is hopefully coming in within the next month. Sergei, maybe I gave too much information now, but I think that's what we are planning to have.
So Sergei, I guess one thing that is going to be one thing that's going to be great for developers, or good for a developer even before they start the upgrade, is they could validate all the code as they're going along on their existing store. Even if they get handed a new store that's been developed by another company, they could validate some of that code against this tool to make sure that it is upgradable?
Yeah, sure. The tool is actually really flexible. So it stores the indexes of all future Magento versions together with the tool, so you can quickly validate each Magento instance for compatibility with each Magento version and see how easy it is to upgrade to next patch release or next minor release. Maybe take a decision on the upgrade. Also, the tool provides you all the issues related to compatibility with the future versions straight away. So instead of just analyzing all the project manually, the developer will need just run the tool and see the general picture first of all, and then he can use the result of the tool execution to review all specific cases without the need to analyze the huge code base. Maybe part of this code base is already compatible, so you don't need to spend time to analyze compatible modules.
And just from a merchant standpoint, this is not going to be, is this available for them to see, or is this is something they run separately, right? It's not something you could just see in the admin panel of Adobe or Commerce?
No, so UCT is a command line tool. It can be used by developers. It provides the human readable report that can be shared with anybody, basically. But yeah, the main idea of UCT is it's a dev tool, so it has to be used by the developer working on the upgrade or working on the project to make it more compatible, even if the project is not upgrading. Some issues that are reported by UCT, like using of non-API interfaces, non-API classes, would be good to resolve even if the project is not going to be upgraded soon, because that's like ensuring the proper implementation of the customization. But in addition to the reports for developers, UCT also can provide reports in a format that can be used for integration, like in JSON format. And as it is a command line tool, it can be used locally by developers, but it can be also used in a centralized way. For example, it can be installed to the CI/CD, to the infrastructure, for just checking if any incompatible issues have been introduced during the development of the project or extension, or just to keep track of compatibility of the project.
Yeah, so just to put that into human terms or into merchant terms, the merchant should be demanding that their agency put this into the workflow for their deployments to make sure that anything's getting deployed has been at least checked by the tool. That's kind of...
Yes, exactly. So if the agency is providing extensions, customizations for the merchant, it's good if this customization is functioning well at specific Magento version, but it's also wise to think about the future, to think one step ahead. So if the customization or extension is provided currently, it still will require maintenance in the future. The Magento will need to be updated. And at this step, the upgrade customization tool can be used to identify the quality of the code and to identify how easy this customization can be later updated.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's a good point.
I think that's a great point. And just I think I want to highlight two things. The first thing is that the tool is only available to be downloaded by Adobe Commerce merchants. So it's not open for open source. That's a very important point. And then related to having the report within the admin panel, that's an idea that we have Unfortunately, we still haven't had the time to prioritize these and put it there. Potentially in the future, that could be an option. So what we want also to achieve with the Upgrade Compatibility Tool is to give visibility and understanding of the status and the quality of the project. And that's related to what we have with the SWOT tool. So potentially in the future, we could have something similar or even together with SWOT tool, but it's not planned at the moment anytime in the next 6 months for sure. And then related to the question that you did about merchants asking their agencies, I think it would be great what the merchants can ask their agencies, and what is going to be very easy to understand for them is to have the report of the Upgrade Compatibility Tool. So the report has a long list, will give a long list of issues with the 3 different levels that we have, but it will give a short summary with how many errors, how many critical, and how many warnings they have for either PHP, APIs, GraphQLs, and even for core commerce, for the core validations. So this will be a simplified version, a simplified summary of the report of the tool. This is something that it will be at least easy to understand for the merchants to know what's the quality of the projects they have. And probably the first time they get it, it might not be so easy to understand, but I think it will be great once you compare it with the next one. So if you're upgrading now to 2.4.3, you can get the report. So if you're using 2.3.7 and you want to upgrade to 2.4.3 or 2.3.3, I don't know, any version with any other, you can get the report. And then once you have this report and within the next upgrade, you can ask for the report and compare both. Hopefully, the report should show less errors and less issues if the quality of the project is improving. This also depends on the upgrade, the new version that you are comparing with, if it has more or less changes, of course. But it's something that merchants can use to keep track of the status and the quality of their projects.
And I guess from, again, looking at it from the merchant standpoint, if they were to go to the Magento Marketplace now, all the Marketplace modules have gone through this process theoretically?
Not yet, not yet,
but they will.
But it is planned to happen. So this is something that the Marketplace team have is thinking on introducing within their EQP processes. So hopefully soon this will be something that will be validated also for Marketplace extensions.
Yeah, and I guess the Marketplace does go through a checker. They do check the code going through the Marketplace. So this will be another step to ensure that when merchants get a plugin, it's going to be compatible with their version and it's then conforming with this tool.
Yeah, that's what we're planning to have.
And I think, you know, the ultimate overarching benefit to all this is that it's going to reduce the cost of ownership for a merchant who's running a Magento Adobe Commerce store.
Yes, that's the idea. That's the goal. Our goal at the end is to simplify upgrades, make the process much easier. So this is one of the initiatives that we are running that we believe is going to have the highest impact. There are other initiatives as well that we expect to have impact on the total cost of ownership of our merchants, but the Upgrade Compatibility Tool will be for sure significant improvement, or at least that's what we're expecting.
Sergei, I know you mentioned a little bit about compatibility via APIs and PHP calls. Can you speak a little bit to how well the tool is going to help a merchant know that he has a store that's been properly configured? And would the tool find a just a piece of PHP code that's sitting in the root of Magento that's making calls to the database? Would it call that out and say, hey, this is really bad?
Well, the purposes of the tool is the first priority of the tool verification is compatibility. So when we are talking about incorrect calls to the database or insecure implementations, that's not the main purpose of upgrade compatibility tool. So there are security checks, security static tests, Magento coding standards are there that can be used for some verification towards overall quality of the code. With upgrade compatibility tool, we are trying to minimize the issues while still reporting lots of them, but the main idea is compatibility. So if the call is not compatible with the future versions of Magento, it will definitely be reported. That's not a general quality checker. That's kind of a specific tool for specific purpose, but it is so part of the functionality based on API verification, because API in Magento is something that we do not change as the other parts of the code, right? So it's very important. The best implementation of customization should rely on Magento API only. In this case, it's very stable and very easy to upgrade. If there are non-API dependencies of the customization, then the upgrade compatibility tool can be used to identify how bad these non-API dependencies for the future versions. I would like also to add about the comparison between projects and the summary report that Sandra mentioned. So yeah, there is a summary report that is very easy to read and understand by even non-technical person. And in this summary report, we actually display some metric that is called complexity score. Now, complexity score is our attempt to calculate how complex the upgrade is. Basically, that's the count of all the errors adjusted on their severity, summed up together right now. We are planning to review this algorithm as it goes further and try to make it as close to the real situation as possible. For sure, that's some relative metric that can be used to compare two different projects, as well as understand the general complexity of upgrade. But right now, the complexity score may not be perfect, so still working it, and it will. I believe it will be closer to the absolute, closer to the perfection as we go forward with implementation of UCP and with coverage of more and more compatibility issues. Right now, it's quite accurate for backend work in general.
And will the tool cover theming issues that may or may not cause errors in the future?
It's not covering theming issues right now, but we are extending the functionality of the upgrade compatibility tool all the time, and eventually we'll come to issues with the front end and cover it in more details.
Sergii, could we probably mention something about how this could be done using the coding standards?
Yeah, so Right now, we are working on the improvement that of Upgrade Compatibility Tool, and we are making it extensible, basically. We are connecting Magento coding standards, Magento coding standard project to Upgrade Compatibility Tool, and Magento coding standard project is going to become a storage of all static tests, all possible static tests for Magento. So right now we have moved a lot of static tests from Magento core to Magento coding standard, and once it will be connected to Upgrade Compatibility Tool, first of all, we'll be able to reuse a lot of additional checks that are provided by this project, but also the verification of Upgrade Compatibility Tool could be extended by contributing to Magento coding standard. So basically that will enable community to introduce their checks to Upgrade Compatibility Tool, as well as it will make it easier for Adobe development teams to ensure that any backward incompatible changes they are doing are included within verification, obviously. You can run Upgrade Compatibility Tool on any Magento 2 version, but you can analyze the upgrade to Magento version starting from 2.3.0 and later.
Got it. Okay, perfect.
It's basically any supported version.
Great, perfect. And from the complexity score, then a merchant would feel good about, or if you're an agency, you could go to, you could look at that code base from a merchant and give them a score fairly quickly.
The score, I think I can get this one, Sergi. The score, you can give it very quickly because it's just a matter of running the tool and it will take just a few minutes. The thing is that the score is not going to give them a relative value that they will know just by looking at that number if the upgrade is going to be complex or it's going to be easy. What we believe we can, how this complexity score can be used now is probably for agencies will be more valuable because they must have a lot of projects. So they can compare the complexity score from one project to another and see how this relates to the final complexity of the upgrade once they've completed and learned, and for future upgrades until we get the complexity score where we want it to get, they can learn and use that based on their experience on the project. Something that is very important to highlight is what Sergi mentioned today. So the complexity score is calculated based on the issues that the tool identifies today. And we are just validating some rules or some checks. We are not validating front-end, for example. We are not making a lot, the scope of this tool is still not to 100% to being able to, or close to it, to being able to use this score for really understanding how complex is the upgrade.
Yeah, that's right. I would completely agree with Sandra. And the complexity score is not an absolute metric; it's a metric for comparison. And merchants can actually use it to track the progress of the preparation for the upgrade. For example, they can take the complexity score number every week and compare them and see how long does it take to reduce the complexity score, and when realistically the upgrade can happen, like when all the compatibility issues will be resolved.
Can you talk a little bit about how it's going to relate with the SWOT tool, like how they can use those two together? I mean, maybe not so much how it relates to it, but how they can use them together right now.
Yeah, right now it's not possible to use them together. So there's nothing that relates SWOT with the upgrade compatibility tool. I just mentioned this just to answer your question, whether it is possible to see the results of the Upgrade Compatibility Tool within the admin. Right now, it's not possible, but it's something that we are looking into it, and potentially in the future, that might be an option.
But at the moment, they could use them. They could use them independently, but they would sort of work with each other. Is that correct?
Potentially, so I cannot guarantee that's going to happen, but it's one of the ideas that we have that we're looking into.
Sergei, can you maybe just talk a little bit about the Magento coding standard project? Maybe explain just a little bit what that is. I know it's not part of the upgrade compatibility tool, but how it relates to it.
So Magento coding standard is not part of upgrade compatibility tool yet, but we are planning to connect it. Well, for sure, we are using Magento coding standard as a dev dependency right now for upgrade compatibility tool to ensure that upgrade compatibility tool is developed up to the best practices of Magento. Magento coding standard is the project that is created by both Adobe developers and community developers. There is a lot of actually community contributions going right now to Magento coding standards project. It's open source, and really interesting work is going on there. The purpose of the project is basically to collect all the best practices on writing the code for Magento projects, and gather them in a single repository, in a single tool, this Magento coding standards. And most of the checks are based on PHP code sniffer. So you can just run PHP code sniffer, install Magento coding standards, run PHP code sniffer, and ensure that the code of extension or customization is looking great, is looking good, and it doesn't have potential bugs, doesn't have insecure implementations, and so on. And we are also extending the Magento coding standards project right now. We are moving more tests there. So currently it's covering only the PHP code. Well, actually right now that's both PHP, HTML, LESS, and GraphQL. But we are going to add the JavaScript checks there as well to improve the coverage on the front-end side. We have we are doing a lot of work in Magento right now in Adobe Commerce right now to update the tech stack to the latest versions to ensure that we are using the latest technology, the most secure and most let's say extensible and modern implementations, libraries. So in scope of these changes, there are some backward incompatible issues, even though we are trying to minimize backward incompatible changes in Magento. Sometimes it is impossible to prevent some small backward incompatible changes when we are trying to provide more capabilities for developers, more capabilities for customizations, and when we are trying to provide the latest tech stack. The tech stack, the libraries, the frameworks Magento Adobe Commerce is based on is evolving, and we have to also change Magento to use the latest libraries. So in scope of these changes, we have already introduced the checks that are identifying so if we are introducing backward incompatible change to Magento, we are trying to introduce the check that static test basically that will identify if that will affect somebody. Like if you will run this test on your Magento instance, you will see if this change that we have done affects you for the upgrades. And the good example of this is jQuery upgrade. So we are upgrading some jQuery components right now, and we have added the ESLint tests that are identifying usages of deprecated, removed jQuery functions. So we have experience. It was useful for us to update it for Magento, but basically we wrote these tests to simplify our work, but that can be used by anybody. It can be used by extensions developer, by customization developer to upgrade jQuery version on their side. So they can reuse these checks, and these checks will be included specifically for jQuery upgrade, will be included in Magento coding standard with an additional tool with the ESLint that will verify JavaScript files. And after that, we are going to reuse these checks also on the UCT side. So in addition to lots of analysis that is done by UCT itself, we will add such checks that are introduced to Adobe Commerce as the development goes on. We will add it to UCT, and basically we are the coding standard project. Anybody can add such tests, and they can be reused by Magento coding standard users and also UCT Upgrade Compatibility Tool. That makes it really easy to share the experience, to share the challenges that we are facing as the developers of Adobe Commerce and as the Magenta community in general. And Magenta community, I know that Magenta community really likes to share the experience, really likes to help each other, specifically talking about the developers, the organizers of the events, the agencies, merchants, everybody. Magenta community is amazing. So Magento coding standard right now is becoming a new great opportunity to share the upgrade expertise, like the issues or challenges that developers, agencies are facing, and enable to reuse it via Magento coding standard or upgrade compatibility tool.
Is there a place that we can see the tool in action right now? Is there some demo that we can see that's recorded, or?
Well, yes, we have a video that was recorded recently that is featuring most of the latest features, most of the latest functionality of Upgrade Compatibility Tool. I believe we have added even more since that video, well, I'm not sure when the new video will appear there, but the quite modern video. Is it published somewhere, Sandra? I don't exactly remember.
It's not published now yet. It's something that we were waiting for the public version of the video. If we have that, we can try to make it available on our DevDocs page. That I think will be the best place, or at least to have a link to within this page. So I think something that I want to mention also is that whoever is listening to this, if you can subscribe to our Upgrade Compatibility Tool Slack channel. And here's where the team, Sergi and myself, we share updates and answer questions and get feedback. So it's a great communication channel for for you to share whatever ideas you might have that think are going to be impactful and good for the tool, or issues that you might have with the tool. We can also share the video. I think on the Slack channel, we can share the video whenever we want, while we make it available on DevTalks.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good idea if you're interested in the tool. If you're interested in upgrades, the Upgrade Compatibility Tool Slack channel in Community Engineering Slack Workspace is going to be really useful for you. There is no not too many. All the messages that are posted to this channel are valuable, are important, and we are also going to share all the news in the Slack channel. And also, if you will have some, if you have some challenges, if you have some pain points with upgrade that are specific to you, and you would like UCT Upgrade Compatibility Tool to cover that, that's the best place to suggest us the features. So we have there are some active members on this Slack channel that are proposing the features, and most of their propositions are actually implemented. So we are really responsive in the channel.
Yeah, I'll put the show notes. I'll put the Slack channel in the show notes so people know how to access it. And I will just add that it's always important that developers ask those questions. And if they don't know, this is a great resource to get answers. And I think, as Sergei said, the Magento community is incredibly helpful no matter what you're doing. And I would encourage every developer and every merchant to join those Slack channels as well, to get answers. And even from a non-technical point of view, I think there are ways as a merchant, as a store owner, to learn about these things and get information and answers about these things. And I think that video would be fantastic. Is if I could, if it's on YouTube or wherever it's published, I'll put a link to that as well, so people can see how I think from a merchant standpoint, a lot of times they feel like that it's you're put into a box and you don't exactly know what's happening. This is a great way to build some transparency between the developer and the store owner, so they understand what is happening in some of those complexities. And as an agency, it's sometimes very difficult to explain to a new merchant, maybe a merchant that's just come to you and they have 70 or 80 modules. It's difficult for them to understand that complexity is making your upgrade more complex. So this would be I think this is going to be a great way to bring some transparency into the whole arena for merchants to understand and developers to understand. And maybe as we close out here today, could you tell us what are you using to kind of stay up to date and stay current with what's happening in our community?
In the Magenta community, or in general?
Yeah, I think there's so many things happening in e-commerce right now, like headless. We didn't even touch on headless and things like that. What are you using?
So talking about Magenta community, well, first I will talk about Magenta community, and then I will also tell you one tip one thing that I recently discovered. So to stay up to date with the Magenta community, if you would like to have it in the interactive way, the best thing would be to just join Magento public meetings. So there is a community calendar on open source Magento.com that is featuring all the public meetings, and specifically, we are also sharing the announcement in Slack and on Twitter. There is Hangouts, so community Hangouts, the meeting that is used to share all the news, all the interesting information, and everybody can participate, talk, discuss something. So that's most part of the meeting is presentation, right? But there is also an opportunity to discuss the things like we are discussing right now. So that's really interactive. And talking about staying up to date in general, I have recently started interacting a lot with that will be a good advice for developers, I guess, with LinkedIn Learning. And this weekend I have seen a really nice course that might be not even for developers, maybe for merchants and for leaders as well. That is called Digital Transformation for Tech Leaders. So that's not even a course, that's a learning path, I believe. And like reviewing such things like courses or books on the digital transformation. Yes, headless is covered, cloud is covered there, AI, ML, and so on. I think that keeps our mind more open, like we would. It enables you to see more opportunities in your daily routine. Like it enables you to see a bit further into the future, and also like bring some imagination and more fun to the regular planning. Maybe it's making it more creative. So yeah, I suggest looking into such things, even if you're not planning to use the new technologies, to switch to new technologies right now. It's always better to hear about them and be ready to jump into the future when the opportunity comes.
And you said that was on LinkedIn, Digital Transformation for Learning.
Yes, Digital Transformation for Tech Leaders, I guess.
Great, thank you. Sandra, what are you doing to keep?
Yeah, I think what Sergii mentioned is great, and the Magento public meetings are very helpful. Something that I think it helps me, and I think it's gonna be, it must be very helpful for merchant developers and also partners or anyone in general, is to follow the Adobe Commerce blog post, either the dev blog or the Adobe Commerce blog. What we're trying to make every announcement of any important either feature or changes, policy updates. I can tell you there are a few things that are coming, so I think it will be great to keep an eye on that. You're gonna get a lot of information from there. And also, as we mentioned before, Slack. So for me, Slack is amazing, not only because you can get updates, but also questions, feedback, ideas. Something that I do is that I set some keywords in Slack, so I get notifications of a specific keywords, so I don't have to read through all the chat, because sometimes there are a lot of conversations that are not relevant for me. But having these keywords helps me to read exactly what I should be relevant for me. So that's very helpful. So that's something that I use, and it helps me to focus and avoid reading everything, just the ones that are important.
That's really interesting. Can you share one example of such keyword? I will use it in the conversations to draw your
Yeah,
attention.
for sure. I have UCT and Upgrade Compatibility Tool for sure, but I can show you later. I don't remember exactly where I set those, but I guess it's in Slack settings somewhere. But I can find that out and share it with you.
So if anybody just mentions UCT in the message, then you get the notification.
Yeah,
right?
and it's like a
Cool
group.
stuff.
It is highlighted. Yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah, this sounds cool. I didn't know about it.
Excellent. I'm glad that I've helped you two communicate better. All right. So as we as we kind of close out here, I always like to give everybody an opportunity to give a shameless plug. So you can plug anything you'd like, a charity or your local council or
I would like to say something. I don't have any organization in particular, but lately I've been a little bit more conscious shopping, or I'm trying to. I have to say it's been very difficult. It's a personal challenge I have. And I think it would be great if we all at least try to do it a little bit more conscious when we are buying something, like trying to reduce the impact that we have, and probably trying to help our community. So when I'm buying, I try to buy things with no plastic, very difficult one. Try to buy from suppliers that are from my community, also very difficult, and even more when you have so many cheap and beautiful things around the world that you can get online, which is great. But I believe that every small thing that we do, if we all do little things, it will make a big impact.
Yeah, I know that my wife makes me throw out 10 things whenever I buy something new. So if you see the state of my new office here, you would say that's not true. But I agree that being very conscious of what you're buying and all those things have a big impact on our planet and help us.
Yeah. Yeah. I like your wife.
Yeah, talking about the impact to the planet, what I really love is I guess that's something that's we are similar with Brent here is sports, like endurance sports, but most important thing about it is that you're basically moving using your own body, and you are not burning fuel, right? You are not relying on some help, and you're also not producing any emissions that can be harmful for the planet, for the atmosphere as well. So one thing that I really like, I love running. Like I do run a lot, and Brent, you know, you are motivating me leaving your comments in Strava, but that I'm doing for sport, right? But what I love doing apart from the sport is just commuting using a bicycle. So I don't cycle too much as a sport, let's say, but I do like just cycle to the store, for example, cycle to town. It's very convenient. I guess it's very convenient in Dublin, where I'm based in, and also that kind of saves lots of space on the roads, and I guess that also helps with reducing the emissions.
Yeah, that's great, and it helps you. So stay healthy.
Yeah, it helps you stay healthy, and it also it's fun. It's really fun to cycle, because you're much more flexible than using any other transport, and you feel the wind as you cycle down the road. That's a great feeling.
Yeah, I know from a commuting standpoint, if I have to go across town in the morning at 6 a.m., it takes me 15 minutes. If I have to go at 6 p.m., it'll take me an hour. And if I
Wow.
ride my bike, it's always 30 minutes to get to that same place. And we're very lucky. I'm in Minnesota, so we're very lucky to have lots of rails to trails. They took all the old railroads, they made them into bike trails. We have bike trails everywhere that are sort of hidden. And I guess also 25 years ago, I owned a retail store in Dublin on Upper Dorset Street. And I know that the traffic in that time has only gotten worse, and it's more difficult to get around the city. So I can totally understand. And having been there, they have great bike lanes as well in Dublin and in Barcelona. So yes, I agree. It's a great initiative. Getting out and using your body. In Minnesota, we're crazy. Even when it's minus 20 Celsius, people are out riding their bikes. We put studs on our tires to ride on the ice. And we ride on the lakes. Our lakes are frozen in the winter, so it's a big sport here.
Wow.
Wow. If it snows in
well, thank
Barcelona,
you.
we don't
Thank
do anything.
both of you
So-
for
Wow. If it snows in Barcelona, we don't do anything. So
yeah, from November to March, it's snow and it's frozen. It doesn't get above freezing. So below zero that whole time. The lakes are more than a meter thick of ice. If you look online, you can see ice houses, and there's people very big on ice fishing, and it's a different culture. Again, thank you both. Thanks for getting through our technical problems. I invite you back again as we move forward with the compatibility tool. I look forward to seeing how SWOT and some of these other tools that have been introduced are going to be integrated and how they're going to help merchants. So Sandra and Sergei, I'm going to try to say Sergei's last name, Sergii Ivashchenko.
The first one was good. First time it was, yeah, nice. First time it was.
thank you very much, Brent,
Good.
for this time.
Excellent.
And
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to see more people on the Slack channel after this podcast.
The Talk Commerce podcast is sponsored by SwiftOtter. E-commerce developers solve problems daily. In fact, some of those seem like mountainous hurdles that must be climbed in a matter of hours. Stress levels can go through the roof. No wonder the plague of burnout affects developers too. But there's a vaccine for that. Investing time in your career will take you farther than you ever imagined. Meet SwiftOtter. SwiftOtter exists to help you become the e-commerce hero that is indispensable and irreplaceable at your company. We do this through Magento certification study materials and Joseph Maxwell's most recent book, The Art of E-commerce Debugging. Go to swiftotter.com to learn more about how you can quickly climb the ranks in your quest to be a better developer. While you're there, use the coupon code TALKCommerce for 15% off any digital goods at swiftotter.com. Cloud is a new normal for companies of any size. Buying, maintaining, upgrading, and disposing of machines is expensive and complicated. Amazon Web Services, managed by eWay Corp, offers an easy-to-use, flexible, cost-effective solution to all your infrastructure needs. eWay Corp can provide a secure, reliable, scalable, high-performance network that will make your office hum, not literally. eWay Corp has saved its customers an average of 31% on their IT costs while adding 62% to the bottom line efficiency. To top that, their customers have seen 43% fewer security incidents. Go to ewaycorp.com to learn how you can start saving money and headaches by moving to the cloud. That's EWAYCORP.com. Thank you again for listening. My name is Brent Peterson, and it has been my pleasure to be your host today. Please rate and subscribe to Talk Commerce. New shows out every week.